Well, in terms of your question about coming to the negotiating table and so on, I think that in terms of the question of Palestine for Palestinians, there is a civil society call for anti-mobilization in which meeting with representatives of these power structures that have sought to, since Oslo and before Oslo, I mean, I guess the entire peace process has just been a way to delegitimize resistance by institutionalizing it with a proxy power, right? So that you don't have a viable resistance movement in Palestine because of this appeasement. And as a result, what civil society has seen is that negotiation or talking at the table with so and so, it has really destroyed most of the resistance. And I think as a result, the anti-mobilization call has tried to end such things, and even to end mobilization in terms of like cultural events and things like that, right? Once you start doing cultural exchanges as if you're equals, that's kind of another piece of mobilization. So I don't know if that answers your question, but I did want to say that.
Okay, so we'll open up to questions, but before we do, I just wanted to let you know if anyone hasn't signed the sign-up sheet and you'd like to get some announcements for us, I'll put it around again. Or maybe Basima, can you put it around? Okay. So questions or comments?
Good evening, everybody. My name is Magib. I'm an intern with the Arab Resource Organizing Center. I don't know if this question sounds crazy, but I think it's some area kind of a start. But my question was, is there any lawsuits pending against Israeli officials in federal courts for misusing federal and state funds for justice establishments such as gentrification, settlements, and genocides within the process? Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. Thank you very much.
Okay, I wanted to make two, maybe three brief comments. When one of the speakers spoke about being selective with the artist when it came to Israel, she couldn't, continue working on that issue. It reminded me of a situation I'm in. I'm a member of the Green Party, and the Green Party has a platform that favors a Palestinian struggle. However, the local Green Party, like in Alameda County, Contra Costa County, we've had some issues where it seems like pro-Palestinian events like this one have not been allowed to get on listservs for the announcements. So that's being investigated right now. It's been going on apparently for the past few years, where the Green Party, the national, which is pro-Palestinian, but we still have this selectiveness because apparently there's some Zionist members or influence in the Green Party. Also, you mentioned, the second speaker again, you mentioned how we are not like the people in Hebron that have rifles being pointed at us. And I agree with you. However, some of us that are working locally, we are being under attack. Recently, we've had at a Jewish Voice for Peace meeting, 2 members pepper sprayed. I know personally of 2 individuals that have been followed home in their cars. So we have situations like this, and where we have to be more on the alert. And also to relate to the third speaker with the Philippines, how we are in different places in struggle. And to us right now, Arizona might seem far to us with what is happening to Hispanics, but it's there's something that may get on the ballot measure in California where they're going to pass, same type of law as in Arizona. So we might have in the future the Hispanics in the same situation. Thank you.
Yeah, we're going to take a few, and then they're going to answer.
Hello, assalamu alaikum. Thank you all for being here. I have a question about Iran's place within the Palestinian struggle. And after the flotilla attack where the Turkish citizens were killed, Ayatollah Khamenei offered, as part of a struggle to break the siege, that if the people on the flotillas wanted the Iranian Navy to escort them to Gaza, that they were ready to do it. And also recently, Saad Hariri, although I'm not really a fan of him, has visited Iran for the first time in an attempt between the Iranian government and the Lebanese government to have a more formal alliance than just between Iran and Hezbollah. And I'm wondering if you guys can comment on that, because I see a lot of times that we don't buy the propaganda against Palestine that's in the corporate media, but I think a lot of times we buy the propaganda about Iran because of any misgivings that we have about the Islamic Republic of Iran. And so I'm wondering if you guys can comment on that. Where do you think their place is in this struggle?
So I guess it's to anyone, particularly the first speaker, because she talked most about it. In regards to NGOs, are there any international or even local organizations, I'm more interested in the Middle East, but anywhere internationally, that do have a better a more ideal framework, that's not like the NGOs you're talking about? And in general, how would you outline an ideal kind of international or local organization? What would it look like?
Thank you for your presentations. It was very good information and analysis, and I definitely benefited from coming tonight and learning from these presentations. My question is, what do you think the people in the United States and other countries, for that matter, should do to support the national liberation struggle of Palestine and the Philippines?
So real quick, I'm gonna try to tackle all those one questions, not all of them, most of them. So just to add to the brother's point of guns being pointed to our heads here, and actually is really, really close to home. We had the issue of Oscar Grant, who was killed execution style in Fruitvale Bar Station. That's still connected to white supremacy and how this cop, Officer Murderly, was able to just get under 1 year or under 2 years in prison. 3 of our young people in APAL, which is a youth organization that I work with, were wrongfully accused of murder, and we were targeted. They're Southeast Asian youth that were rounded up because they had the same last name. This was about 3 years ago. We organized a mass mobilization of young people in the Alameda Police Station, and were able to actually overcome some of the things that we worked on. So it's not foreign. People are also being repressed here. FBI is knocking on doors of anti-war activists in Minnesota, and some of our kasamas or comrades are also visited by the FBI for some of the cultural work that they're producing out there, or some of the speaking out, or even just uniting with the Palestinian issue. So it's not foreign to us here, being approached with violence as well. So the brother's question in the back about Iran, all I can say is that it's definitely connected. Again, kind of what I talked about was it's a geopolitical strategy to access oil in the Middle East. So connecting it back to the ecological crisis, we are running out of oil reserves, and the rich oil reserves are in the Middle East. So in order for the U.S. to have a stronghold and a puppet government and some friends, they fund Israel and make friends with Israel. So you also have to look at it in terms of material, historical references, right? So one of the main reasons why they're still in the news because that's the next country that the United States will target, and it is targeting. And in terms of the sister's question about volunteer or what kind of formations, I feel that definitely volunteer organizations, volunteer organizing, where it's not tied to any nonprofit, where it's strictly volunteer, when you organize one-on-one to build a really strong, wide, mass-based organization of people. In the Philippines, Buy in USA is super deep. I got a chance to go out there and integrate with some of the organizations out there, and millions and millions of people go out into the streets if there's a mass mobilization on a national level. And this is all volunteer organizing because conditions are so ripe, and we're trying to build that here. And obviously it's going to be a lot harder because conditions are different. We work, we have school, there's definitely different conditions, but it's volunteer mass-based organizing. But at the same time, it's also utilizing NGOs and nonprofits to push for a really progressive agenda. And I'm sure there's some really great organizations out there like AROC. We've been marching with AROC since the start of 2001 war with the Strength and Unity contingent. There's Filipino Community Center in Frisco. There's all these different organizations that navigate around the whole nonprofit industrial complex. And which is actually a really good book, if y'all get a chance to read it. It just talks about the really challenges of the nonprofit industrial complex. And lastly, to answer the question of what we should do here in the U.S. is to organize.